Welcome to Meganet Gaming. This review is going to be on a Super Nintendo game that has quite a wide range of differing opinions on whether or not it's a good game or not. Reviews are all over the place, ranging from it scoring well into the 30 and 40%, all the way to people saying it's one of the best games on the Super Nintendo. And I think that really depends on a lot of factors. And that game is Shadowrun for the Super Nintendo. Shadowrun for the Super Nintendo is an action RPG set in the Shadowrun universe, which is a cyberpunk fantasy universe set in the future. It was developed by Beam Software and published by Data East. In North America is released May 1993. It takes an isometric view and has a unique aspect where it uses a cursor where you have to select an object to use it after selecting it with the cursor, or even to attack. A feature that I personally liked, but it does take a while to get used to, and I do understand it if you're somebody that doesn't like that feature. Given that there aren't a whole lot of menu options when you do click on something with the cursor, it kind of takes a balanced approach between trying to be controller friendly, using an interface that's really more designed for a mouse. You're given control over the protagonist, Jake, who wakes up in a hospital with amnesia. Wakes up in a morgue with amnesia. And then you enter the world with just a couple of loose ends. You figure probably should find out who killed you, and that's about it. You spend a lot of time talking to different NPCs, and you need to talk to NPCs because they'll say certain keywords which will open up subsequent dialogue options. So it's important to pay attention to the dialogue options given, and paying attention to which NPCs are around, and actually read what the NPCs are saying. You do spend a fair amount of time in this game grinding, given you need to make currency to buy fellow mercenaries, which are called Shadowrunners. And the currency used is the yuan. And you also need to buy guns and other key items that you need to advance in the game. Over time you build up karma, and when you go to bed, it saves one's progress, restores health, and then karma can be allocated into different attribute skills and magical powers. Using an item called the cyberdeck, you can enter cyberspace, and you're able to hack the computers, which opens up a pretty fun mini-game in order to do it. It takes place in a top-down perspective. Where this game shines isn't so much the gameplay or the combat, it's really the story. It's quite a large world for a Super Nintendo game, quite an open world for a Super Nintendo game, especially a 1993 game. And it gives you a lot of options to explore a variety of character types, dialogue that's believable, especially for a game of this time where there's a lot of cheesy dialogue even in story-driven RPGs. And the story, if you just focus on the story, the plot, and set aside some of the clunkiness in gameplay, I would say it's one of the top 10 Super Nintendo games. And if you're somebody that actually enjoys the cursor-based combat system, there's actually quite a bit of enjoyment to be had in this game. It's a fairly lengthy game for a Super Nintendo game, and it holds up well to the Shadowrun universe in the tabletop world. So, as far as rankings go, it's received awards for being best RPG of the year by Video Games, Electronic Games and Game Informer, and received scores like 2 out of 5 by RPG Gamer magazine, or RP Gamer, however you actually say that out loud. It basically comes down to how much you enjoy the story and universe, and how much you can tolerate the user interface and gameplay mechanics. As an 8-year-old playing this game, I actually enjoyed the gameplay mechanics. I'm not exactly sure why. Given most of my experience with computers, it was not using mouse-based computers. I had a DOS machine that might have had Windows 3.1 by this point. But most of the time I use keyboards on computers, except for limited experience with Apple II GS's and Windows 3.1 machines. I did find it quite intuitive once I got used to it. It's a game that's held up surprisingly well. There's tons of games from this time period that I go back and play now, and it's painful to make it through some of these games because of odd mechanics or outdated graphics. This game does have outdated graphics, but the graphics are well done enough from the isometric perspective where the world's still believable. So anyway, where am I going to put this game on the reviews? Oh yeah, the sound, the graphics are acceptable. The sound and music's well done for setting the mood and environment. It's not something you listen to on its own. But I do believe it's a top tier RPG for the Super Nintendo, and the story is one of the best on the Super Nintendo. As such, I'm going to put it in the gold egg category, and I do highly recommend it. Just spend a few hours to get used to the gameplay mechanics, and if you don't enjoy games with a lot of grinding, this one likely isn't for you. Hope you enjoyed the review. Please like, subscribe, and have a great day.